Hey, it's Alan. Welcome back. All right, in this lesson we're going to talk about adding narration or voiceover to your video. Now let's say you started out by having some kind of a predefined title. Now let me make these a little bigger so you can see what's going on better. I can use this to make the tracks taller and this to make them a little wider. Okay, so now this first clip here is just a intro thing, and you see those bars there, those indicate music that I already put in that track. And then this next one's a talking head thing I taped with my iPhone, and so that already has some video in it. Then over to the right here I have this screen recording, which I didn't use any voice while I was recording it, so it has no sound at all. And I did that on purpose because that's just the way I work. It's easier for me to record the screen and just think about what I'm showing, then come back later and think about what I want to say about it, all right? So there's some screen recording there with no sound in it. So the first thing I have to do is move the playhead to where I want to start the narration, because when I start talking, it's going to record my voice and move along to the right of that. So right here's where I want to start my narration, so that's where I put the playhead. And now to do the actual narration, click voice narration on the left there, and then go to the top and make sure the right microphone is selected. Make sure your microphone is hooked up and ready to go. Okay, and then I'm going to use my Yeti, so that has to be selected. Now you can turn on this auto leveling thing. What that does is it sets the recording level automatically to the situation. And when that's showing green, that means it's on. And you can also mute the timeline during recording, and that prevents the speakers in your computer from making any sound that would then come around and come right back into your recording. Okay, now when you're ready to go, just click Start Voice Recording and start talking. The video will play over to the right as you're talking so you can see what you're narrating. Now if you mess up, which I do about 1,000 times a day, you can click cancel or stop down at the bottom. If you click stop, just click cancel on the second box to choose yes, and it's like you never even recorded. Then check to make sure the playhead's exactly where you want to start narrating. Click Start Voice Recording again and try again. You can record for as long or as short a time as you want, 5 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, whatever works for you. And when you're happy with your recording or you've messed up, you can click stop. And then if it's a keeper, just choose the folder for the lesson you're working on so that all those files are together and give it a file name. I usually just number them like 01, 02, 03. The file is saved and is added to the media bin, and it also shows in the timeline with its left edge right where you started recording, and you can see the little bit of sound waves at the bottom there. This one's a little weak. We'll talk about how we can make it louder in a bit, but basically this is how a voice narration is done, and now you can just keep doing it until you've narrated the whole lesson. And again, you don't have to do it in one big chunk. You can just keep putting in little chunks like this. Now once in a while, or if you're like me, a lot in a while, you're going to come to a situation where you want to say something, but you recorded over it so fast you don't really have time to say anything. So what you need to do is stop the action in the video. You kind of freeze frame it so that you have a minute to talk about that, and then it can resume. So let's talk about how you do that. First, you have to get the playhead to right where you want to do the freeze frame. You can kind of ballpark it by dragging it into position, then use those next frame and previous frame buttons to get right to where you want to stop the action. Then you want to right click that exact spot on the timeline and choose extend frame. Then it's going to ask you for how long. Now you're not going to know if it's, well, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, but if you just set it to like something ridiculous like 60 seconds if you think you need 6, then so what if it's too long? It's like a board or a piece of cloth. If it's too long, it's easy to cut it shorter. But if it's too short, it's a little harder to cut it longer. So just go ahead and extend that frame way out so you don't have to worry about it, and give yourself plenty of time. And then click OK. And it'll get real wide down in the timeline. And basically that width is how long you have to talk. But again, you don't have to fill that time. Talk for as long as you want and then trim to your voice. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So I get the timeline to where I want to start my narration, same as before. Click Start Voice Recording, same as before. Say whatever it is I need to say. And when I'm done, I'll click Stop, and if it's good, I'll save it. Now I extended the frame out to over a minute, but I only spoke for a few seconds, so now I got to get rid of some of that extra slack of that whole minute. So basically I have to delete everything from where I finish talking to the end of the extension. Now the end of the extension is indicated by this stitch looking symbol. Okay, so if I put the playhead there and select and then hit split, it'll split right there at the stitchy thing, and then I'll go right to where I finished talking roughly, click there and split. Okay, and I'll just click that chunk and delete it out of there and stitch it back together, and now it's a nice smooth transition. It's going along. It freeze frames for a minute. It gives me or for a few seconds, giving me time to talk about something, and then it just picks up where it left off. Okay, and to the person watching it, it looks smooth. They're not aware that all this editing's going on. It looks like I just have pretty good timing. But we're not completely out of the woods yet, because you might have noticed some of these audio things have real tall spikes in them, and some of them have very tiny little spikes in them, meaning the volumes are all different. And that's going to be annoying to people listening to this, so we need to try to even some of that out. Let me show you how we do that. First, you want to select all the audio clips by dragging the mouse pointer through them, or you can just click in the timeline and press Control-A and select everything in the timeline, because this is only going to affect clips that have sound in them. So now the clips that have the orange borders are selected, and what I can do is then apply volume leveling and other things to these selected clips. All right, so the way we do that is choose Audio Effects from the left pane here. You might have to click More. Okay, there's the audio effects, and now you see what your different options are. Right now our main concern is volume leveling. If you want to apply it to everything though, you got to hold down the Shift key, then drag volume leveling down to any one of the selected clips. Now when you release the Shift key and mouse button, it will be applied to all the selected clips. And now you can see the volumes look a little more even, but they may not be perfect. If you need to make some fine adjustments, you can just go into any one of them, drag the top of that green bar up or down to make it louder or quieter. For example, this one looks pretty good, but this one looks a little low still, so I might drag that up to make it a little louder, and maybe this one drag it down a little quieter. And you can just kind of wing it here and listen. I don't have any magic formula for that part of it. Now let's say I also have a problem where this narration has a lot of background noise. Again, I could select both of those, hold down the Shift key and drag that down, and now that adds a noise removal effect to that, and you can click the little button at the bottom to see what all's applied, and when that's selected you can then even adjust that. Okay, so that's how you can apply noise removal to get rid of extraneous background noise. So that in a nutshell is how narration works. If you're following along doing your own, don't forget to save your work. You want to save your work often, of course, so you don't lose anything. And now in the next lesson we're going to talk about titles and callouts, which are tools that allow you to draw your students' attention to specific things on the screen, or to back up what you're saying with words on the screen. All right, I'll see you over there.